And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Adam Scher along with you on this Thursday morning, getting you ready for a 4-game NBA slate. It is an 8 p.m. tip-off where we have Golden State, Washington, New Orleans, Oklahoma City as our two early games. Portland, Phoenix, Minnesota, Los Angeles as our late. Last time, at least this week, I'm filling in for EMAC as he travels back from FSTA. Adam, how the hell are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Last night's slate was pretty fun, I think. 10-gamer, lots of good plays. You had a lot of stuff to sweat, so I think it was a good time. Hopefully tonight's is as good.
Yeah, looking quickly at this slate, it seemed as though 4-game slates can be a little bit dicey, but some decent point guard options here, and lets us then move through maybe to some decent center options as well, and then finding hopefully some value somewhere in between will be your task as you write the deep dive. On Thursday, you have the deeper dive with Dave at 5 p.m., but Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you get Adam's right up for the deep dive. If you want to check that out, you'll have to become a member of Awesemo.com. To do that, you can get 50% off your first month by using the promo code EARLYBIRD, one word, when you check out. So head on over Awesemo.com, sign up. You check out 50% off your first month of subscription. Let's start at point guard, where we always do. And we have some good matchups here, decent price points, and you have potential value, too, with some of these injuries that we're tracking. Russell Westbrook has a matchup with New Orleans. We know this is a game without Anthony Davis. Jahlil Okafor did have a few blocks in Wednesday's game, but I know that he's going to be the real rim protector against Russell Westbrook, a 10-7 price tag. Then you have Steph Curry against Washington, which has been a sieve against guards all year long at 9,100. Damian Lillard is questionable with a hand injury. It was a hand contusion. So maybe we get some Seth Curry value here against Phoenix. And then you have Drew Holiday, obviously usage up against with Anthony Davis out. Devin Booker. Some decent options here on a 4-game slate. What do you like the best at point guard?
Yeah, 4 pretty appealing games. Westbrook at the top. I think the price tag's come down a bit. He's down to 10-7 on DraftKings, which is really nice. In a fast-paced game against New Orleans, this game absolutely should be a shootout between two of the fastest-paced teams in the league. As far as individual defenders go, New Orleans' backcourt is actually pretty strong with Elf and Drew Holiday, but just not really that concerned about individual defense in this era of basketball where you're just running up and down the floor playing in transition for large parts of the game, and the extra possessions afforded in this game should really make up for any inefficiencies as well. So really like Westbrook. Curry at 9,100, obviously still some of an adjustment period playing with DeMarcus Cousins, and then obviously still sharing the ball with Clay and with Durant as well. Also not having his minutes staggered with Durant, but a phenomenal matchup here against Washington. Surprisingly, Washington's actually been pretty decent defensively lately, but I don't really see any reason to expect that to be a long-term trend. They just shouldn't be that good. And either way, it's another fast-paced game. So I think that, Curry should still get plenty of open looks, and then Dame in a great spot. If he does play. If he doesn't, then obviously Seth Curry steps in as a top value.
And makes for an awful, awful process to have Seth Curry in your lineup, because it's never fun to have Seth Curry in your lineup. But 3,200 on DraftKings, you're going to snap that up, especially when it's 4-game slate. Look for the value when it comes to you, and don't run away from it. What about an Elfrid Payton or a Dennis Schroeder? These guys who have some offensive upside could be in good spots in the matchups. I know Oklahoma City's been very good defensively, but same thing sort of applies to Schroeder that it does Westbrook, that rim protection isn't there and there's some upside, or you see Schroeder at 4,800 as a non-factor on this slate?
I think 4,800 is too low. He's obviously all over the place, but whenever you get a player that's as volatile as he is, it's really just as easy as rostering him when his price tag goes down and then getting away when his price tag goes up, especially because normally, and not saying that he'll be low on this particular slate just because it's a 4-game slate, but in general, it works out that way also because when their price tag drops, it's normally because they're not playing well. And then when the price tag goes up, it's because they're playing well. So you'll get people kind of chasing the game logs and rostering him at higher price points when you can get away, and vice versa. So really, I mean, if Schroeder were 4,800 against the Pels every day this season, you would make money by playing him. So there's no real reason not to.
Let me know if you've ever heard this before, Adam. Buy on the dips. You buy on the
Yeah, there you
dips, you sell on the highs, yes, it's a cliche from the stock market, but it makes a lot of sense here too, specifically for certain players. I'm not saying that is how you can go across the board, but for someone like a Schroeder, it was always, and hopefully his knee is still intact. It was Oladipo last season. Once he dropped below 8K, it seemed as though his upside was high enough that you could make that work. I know you went some was it Zapruder Films or Zapruder, the JFK Grassy Knoll video. I'm getting the wrong name there, but you tried to figure out exactly what happened to his knee, and you couldn't find it during the watching the video, huh, Adam?
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing. I'm gonna have to do some more searching later, I guess. But yeah, I mean, you could see him get hurt, but I couldn't figure out exactly what happened. I'm guessing it wasn't good though, since they just like threw a towel on it and then immediately said he needs surgery.
Zapruder, Zapruder. I knew I was
Yeah.
in the right ballpark. I was in the right
Yeah, no,
ballpark.
you were right. Once I realized what you were talking about,
Once you got around to actually making some sense, then I understood what you're talking about. Let's go to shooting guard next. I didn't talk about Jeff Teague over at point guard. At least I did not. I don't think you did either. You have Derrick Rose at 6,500, point guard, shooting guard eligible. Obviously, Steph Curry at the top here. Bradley Beal at 8,900. Fine. I'm not a huge fan of Bradley Beal, and this matchup seems like one where you should have Golden State run him off the floor. I know Beal went absolutely nuts against Toronto a few games back, has had some really gigantic upside games. I have not trusted him much this season. Devin Booker is at 7,500. Then again, to the likes of Ingram, Kelly Oubre Jr. is up to 5,700. Wiggins is at 5,600. Score first option there. Then we get some more of the same value over at point guard. What do you make of Brad Beal in this matchup and price point of 8,900?
I really like him just because he plays so many minutes, and I mean he's really good. You know, I'd mentioned it after I went to the game against Toronto when that you mentioned, and I feel like I just undervalue him because I'm a Wizards fan and I'm so used to them just disappointing. But he's really, really, really good. The biggest issue I would have getting to him on this slate is just that you have, Devin Booker for 1,400 less. You have Drew in a very fast-paced game for 700 less, playing without Anthony Davis. And then you get into that mid-range where you have, Andrew Wiggins in a fast-paced game. You have Clay in a great spot against the Wizards. So he's the most expensive guy at what's actually a pretty deep position. And it's always, from a roster construction standpoint, a little bit more difficult to get up to those guys when you have so many quality options below him.
If we can get Andrew Wiggins picking up 6 to 10 rebounds a night, it just makes such a world of difference in what his output can be. I know he's not a great shooter. I know he's a scorer, but not a great shooter. The numbers aren't necessarily there. But if he could give you a couple of peripheral stats to go along with an 8 for 19 or a 9 for 20, it would be such a world of difference. Do you like him here enough at 5,600? I know you just mentioned him. Is he on the radar here?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because he's playing so many minutes and because the Lakers play so fast. The Lakers are a perfect example of one of those teams where, from an efficiency standpoint, you don't really expect a whole lot. You don't expect anyone to be above average because they are a good team on a per possession basis, but they play so fast that it doesn't really matter. Lonzo being out should hurt the team defense anyway. Rondo being back should make it so that they're still playing at a reasonably fast pace. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good spot for Wiggins. He's kind of in that Schroeder category where, if his price tag just kind of fluctuates from like 7,500 to 5,500, and you can pretty much roster him every single time he's at the bottom end, because when you're playing 38 minutes and you're $5,600, you really don't have to be very productive to put up a good score.
All right. Anybody else here at shooting guard that you think is worthwhile?
Some interest in Ingram just because Minnesota is quietly playing really fast right now. They going into their last game, they ranked 6th in pace since Ryan Saunders took over. So I think that this is a game. They're all actually fast-paced games on this slate, but with the exception of Portland. But I think that this is one that maybe plays a little bit faster than people are going to give it credit for. And Ingram does have Rondo, or probably will have Rondo out there now, someone else to handle the ball and maybe open things up, make things a little bit easier for him.
All right, we're somebody to keep an eye on. And obviously, everything we talk about here should lead into the NBA Strategy Show, which happens Thursday morning. And then you get, of course, the deep dive right up, the deeper dive show, and then live before lock, leading up till 8 p.m. You and Lofty will still do deeper dive at 5, or will you guys move to 6 on an 8 p.m. First tip?
We'll be on at 6.
Okay, so you get Dave and Adam at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday nights. Then live before lock, usually it is Spags or Josh along with Ed Fear. I know on some of these shorter slates, you're getting Spags and Josh, so you can take that to the proverbial bank. That you'll see 2 out of 3 of those gentlemen at about 7 p.m. Eastern time for the final hour leading up to lock. Small forward. I've loved playing Paul George. It just seems like he is continually underowned as compared to Russell Westbrook. And his price points come up finally over the past couple of weeks. Has been hovering in the 95, 9,800 plateaued, or I should say peaked. Get the right word there, Dan. Peaked over 10K at the beginning of January. But here he has a matchup with New Orleans at 9,600. Kevin Durant is at 9K. I don't think I've rostered Kevin Durant once this season. I really don't. As I think about it, I don't know that I've ever rostered him this year.
Yeah, I do it pretty rarely. Really, I get to all the Golden State guys a lot less than other people do. And I'm with you on George. I mean, people are finally rostering him, but I still don't think they're rostering him quite enough because while this is the best fantasy season that he's had, he's been averaging, 1.35 points per minute basically the entire season. He plays 36 to 38 minutes. He plays a position where there's fewer options than Westbrook's, and he's not that much worse than Westbrook on a per minute basis, but he's available for between $1,500 and $2,000 less. And in this particular matchup, he actually, I like it for both of them, but it's even better for him, whereas you have Drew Holiday and Elfrid Payton dealing with Westbrook. You have some combination of, Etuan Moore, Julius Randle, Nikola Mirotic. Like, these are the wings on New Orleans, and it's just a mismatch for Paul George. So I really like the spot for George. Durant against Washington, I think, is good. I would rather get the money for George, but 9K on Durant is a really nice price tag. Homecoming game for him, for anyone who, for whatever reason, still buys in the narratives. But, yeah, I think they're both good. I think George is better.
Oh, Durant's going to try harder. He's at home. Come on.
Right.
I always try harder when – oh, wait, I work from home. That's the problem. Otto Porter Jr. here, 6,100. Trevor Ariza at 59. There are rumors that Porter could be being shopped by Washington. Not sure. That is a narrative that I do like to keep an eye on, just from players like a Cantor, who I think will be traded on Thursday. There's no way Enes Kanter is still on the Knicks by the end of this week. But
I think he's going tomorrow.
Yeah, he's got to be.
Well, yeah. Jabari Parker didn't play either. Someone actually mentioned it to me on Twitter.
Yeah.
I didn't see the tweet until after it was clear Parker wasn't playing, or at least hadn't subbed in early. But he said something about Cantor and was like, by the way, watch out for a Parker DNP. And I was like, oh, yeah, that would make sense. And then I realized that Parker wasn't playing.
From what I understood, they wanted a third team involved for Cantor to go to that would matter. Right? So him going to Chicago makes little to no sense. In the same way, he probably wouldn't play much there, and you get into the same situation. I heard Sacramento as a possible third team in that situation. So we'll wait to see. I thought,
what the hell is he doing in Sacramento?
I have no idea. But I thought Houston might make sense for the at least the near term. Get him there while Capella's rehabbing, and you have at least a big who can score and he can rebound. He's not a good defender, but this team isn't looking for a good defender right now. They're looking for a body, like someone who can be in there for 6 fouls and put up some points. So we'll see what happens. But I will be amazed if Cantor's not traded. I've heard enough about Otto Porter Jr. He's at 61. And then we have Wiggins again here. Josh Jackson had a big game last time out, 31 minutes, 27 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks in a 52-point DraftKings outing. Has a matchup here with Portland. Where are you going at mid-tier? Is it a Kelly Oubre sort of day? Is it Otto Porter Jr., or do you find maybe a cheap option that can give us a tiny bit of salary relief?
I think it's a spot to pay really close attention to the Awesemo ownership projections, because all these guys project pretty similarly. Otto Porter coming off the bench, but still playing 34 to 36 minutes is really nice. It's putting him into a role with this Washington team that he's never really been in, where sometimes they're playing really small and you're getting Otto Porter at center, which is certainly something that can happen during DeMarcus Cousins minutes against Golden State. But then also you're seeing some point Otto Porter when Beal's not on the floor. So whereas he used to be a guy that basically just stood around and for the most part didn't create for himself and just, knocked down shots when John Wall gave him the ball, you're seeing him create for himself. You're seeing him in better rebounding opportunities. So I think that he's kind of an overlooked guy, underrated player right now. And then, for cheaper, Jackson and Oubre both. TJ Warren doubtful for this game. So there should be minutes there for them. Jackson has been playing reasonably well when he gets the minutes. Oubre's been very good with Phoenix, and I think is just a better player than Jackson, but is a little bit more expensive. I think both of those guys are appealing. It's just a matter of, who's going to be the lowest owned out of the group.
Got it. That makes a ton of sense. And for those ownership projections, typically the first run comes out sometime late morning, early afternoon. Then they're updated as the day goes on, and obviously updated right before lock to give you a best sense of what they got. And fairly accurate, I'll be honest. This is it is a algorithm. It's a project and a sequence they go through to project. 100%? No, but I think by far the most accurate in the industry, which can make a huge difference in how you're building lineups. And to Adam's point here, maybe you get away from chalkier play and find somebody with similar upside, but at lower ownership who may give you a little bit of an edge on a 4-game slate. Power forward, here's where we sort of probably parse some words simply because of MPE on DraftKings. Do you prefer a Paul George at power forward over small forward? We do have Julius Randle here. Mirotic bumped knees or has a calf strain or something, so he may not play here. So it may be Julius Randle and Drew Holiday, and that's it for New Orleans. You have Randle at 7,800, Mirotic, if he does play, 6,800. And then you have the likes of Draymond Green, Trevor Ariza. Do you see quickly here at first glance Paul George being more valuable at power forward than small forward on the slate?
I think he's more valuable at small forward. You just have you have better plays in that mid range at power forward with Julius Randle, potentially with Mirotic, with Draymond against Washington in a great spot, with Kuz against Minnesota in a very nice spot. All of those guys, I'd rather play all of those guys than the mid range small forwards.
I'm kind of surprised that DeMarcus Cousins' price tag has stayed below $6K on DraftKings. He's at 5,800.
Yeah, I still don't know exactly what to make of him. We saw 21 minutes last game. If he can get up to 24, 25 in this spot, I think he just goes absolutely nuts. He's another one that I just pay really close attention to ownership with. Me and Josh went on like a 15-minute rant on the strategy show the other day about how it's not just about projecting, like playing the highest projected lineups in tournaments. You really have to factor in, especially in guys with Cousins, where they're on pretty strict minutes limits, and you can really only give them so many points per minute that, if he's going to hit like 50% ownership or something, then it's easier to win a tournament just not by having him or by not having him, even though he's in a very good spot. He's a very good play. But if the ownership comes down a little bit, then by all means, go there, because he should just absolutely eat against Thomas Bryant and whoever else Washington runs out there.
Makes a ton of sense to me. I think it's a situation here. And I think, it gets lost a lot in the analysis, what you were just saying about you and Josh's discussion around projections. And our good buddy, and I trolled him a little bit, and I didn't get a reaction out of him, I was very disappointed about. But Manny, Laura put up a video about someone asking him how, basically how to play NBA, and, well, where do these projections come from? And right now, a lot of sites' projections, meaning their base projections, are similar. Like, a lot of these sites are producing very similar projections because they make sense. Like, it's what makes sense. They're using very similar inputs. You get very similar outputs. So when you're looking for a tournament winning lineup, there's going to need to be some tweaks to it. And I'm not saying manually shifting someone's minutes. We all know people do that as well, and it's kind of silly. But manually shifting and understanding, run and understanding the upside. How do you do it? Not to give away your, what you do every day, but is there a specific sequence or specific process you take to make sure you're differentiating your projections and differentiating the crunches you're going to do?
Yeah, and again, not even to plug it, because I actually use them. Like, our ownership projections are how I kind of determine what lineups I want to use because, for the most part, everyone's projections are going to tell you basically the same thing as long as your inputs are similar, within a point or two, and you're going to get very, very similar lineups. But by combining those with ownership projections and creating lineups that have one or two contrarian plays in them, like you don't have to have a bunch of contrarian plays, but by combining them and making it so that your lineups are kind of unique, each one in and of itself, you're able to get really good lineups that can win tournaments while still having a bunch of really good plays. And so I do a lot of stuff in Excel, combining my projections with our ownership projections and creating lineups that way.
Makes a lot of sense. Let's close out power forward. What are some of the other names outside of Cousins? We talked George, Julius Randle in a fine spot here. If Mirotic doesn't go, what do you like from the rest of power forward?
It gets kind of ugly. I like Jeremy Grant at 5K. I really don't know why his price tag is so cheap. It's going back down, but he's actually been playing really well, playing 34 to 36 minutes a night. It's a matchup against New Orleans where he shouldn't really have any shortage of guys to defend. So I think that's pretty appealing. I think Taj Gibson's okay. But really with MPE on DraftKings and being able to roster, in addition to all the mid-range power forwards I mentioned at the top, but also the small forwards that we talked about with Porter and Ariza and Jackson, there's really no shortage of guys to go to in that like 5 to 6K range or 5 to 7K range.
All right, let's close it out with center. Karl Anthony Towns against Lakers. Fine spot at 10-2. Nurkic against Phoenix. Ayton is questionable. He didn't practice on Wednesday. If he can't go, fire up Nurkic. I mean, if all of a sudden it's Dragon Bender again at center for Sean Holmes and Ayton are out, it just seems like another – well, I guess Holmes is questionable as well. But he was did not practice, but listed as questionable. This feels like both of them sit again. And you got Dragon Bender at center. Nurkic should have a field day at 8K. Steven Adams with the matchup with New Orleans. And who else we got? You have Jahlil Okafor, whose price tag is up to $4,900, coming off a decent game a couple games back. Didn't see his full box score tonight. I'll have to double check that as you break down the top end. Who are some of your favorite plays here?
Absolutely stacked position. Towns in a great spot against the Lakers. Whatever combination of Chandler, McGee, and Zubats, he should just go nuts against, 36 to 38 minutes, averaging about 1.6 fantasy points per minute at the top. But, kind of like we talked about, it's tough to pay all the way up for Beal or for Westbrook when their position's deep. You have the same issue here with Towns. Nurkic, even if Ayton or Holmes play, it's a great spot. But, you're absolutely right. If he doesn't play, Nurkic is looking at, at least a monster double-double, if not a triple-double, against this front court. Like there's just nothing to slow him down. We've seen Towns wreck it twice, and now you get another, very athletic, very good offensive player in Nurkic coming in. So certainly something to keep an eye on there. He gets a nice boost if Ayton and Holmes sit. The spot for Steven Adams is fine. He doesn't have quite as much upside as I would like at this position, but he's certainly a fine point per dollar play. Jahlil Okafor, it'll be interesting to see where his ownership comes in. It's a tough matchup against Steven Adams, but again, it's just such a fast-paced game that, at 4,900, he still should be able to pay off that price tag.
So I don't have his result, DraftKings result, and I don't know if you are able to do the quick math on the fly, but Jahlil Okafor's line on Wednesday night. Pelicans, Pistons. Pistons win 98-94, so not an extremely high-scoring game, right? So this is a lower-scoring game when all is said and done. Jahlil Okafor, his line was 17 points, 10 rebounds, 6 blocks.
Yeah, 41 DraftKings points.
Yeah. So that's a pretty solid outing for a guy who has been left for, proverbial dead in the NBA. Obviously, things have shaken his way. He's had some good matchups, some good games to get into. Drummond being out, a huge boon to him. But again, it's this situation where he's going to be in a fine spot. And at 4,900, I agree. Adams isn't a slouch here, but going to be tough to get away from him, at least in early builds, just to see where you can get to. Nurkic is going to be the guy. Here's the thing. It's Stotts in Portland, right? Terry Stotts still. Yeah. He just doesn't give him the minutes. Like you see time and time again, he's at like 26, 28 minutes where he should be playing 32 to 36. And I don't think it's not conditioning. It's just coaches' decisions.
Right. he's been much better about it this year than in the past, because in the past it was one of those, it was almost like Whiteside, where it's like,
yep,
he's going to play 20 to 30. Now he's very consistently playing right around 30. It's like sometimes we'll see 32 plus. Normally it's like 28 to 30. For the most part, when the game's competitive and he's not in foul trouble, he gets like right to that 30-minute mark, which has been nice. And it's, he's a 1.3 point per minute guy, so he still can just go absolutely nuts there. But yeah, I mean, if he got minutes like Towns or Drummond or those guys, like he'd be a 10K player.
Anybody else worth mentioning at center before we close it out?
If Ayton goes, I think he's a really good play.
All right. So as I said, you get Adams right up on Thursday, typically out around 4 o'clock. He will let you members know over in Slack chat, of course, that it is available if you want to be a member. Said it earlier, but to use the promo code EARLYBIRD coupon code when checking out, that'll get you 50% off your first month. All of the information is available over there at awesemo.com. And you can always, if you're a member, just DM Josh Engelman. Just DM him, chat with him all you want. He loves that. He loves interacting with the fans and with the subs. So be sure to do that. You want to find Adam, it's Ship My Money DFS on Twitter. If you find him on FanDuel, it's I'm a Boss. So you can check him out over there. Find me at Dan Strafford. Surprisingly, on DraftKings and on FanDuel, I'm D Strafford. I know I went well beyond my creative license there, but that is my username on both sites. And that's going to do it. Lofty and I are supposed to be on tomorrow. It might be Emac and Lofty. We're going to wait to see if Emac is up for it. And if not, you get me and Lofty, and then you get Emac and Adam for Saturday. And again, NBA strategy show in the morning. Deeper dive at 6 p.m., I should say, live before lock at 7 p.m. Until next time, you've been listening to the DFS Early Bird presented by awesemo.com.